my gosh, this has been such a powerful day, and it's all connected because what did he say? Fix the house and that will fix the school, right? So as we talk about fixing the house, let's get back to the house. Let's get back to family. Family again. I have the best person that I could ever talk to about this subject, which is my amazing, incredible, wonderful husband, Mr. Keith Harris. I'm going to invite him into the stage right now. Hello, babe.
Well,
Welcome. Welcome to
well,
the
hello.
show. Yes, we're
Thanks
in
for
the same
having me.
house. I know, right? We're in the same house. So he's actually been, here at the summit this whole time. He's actually been here in spirit, right?
Indeed.
But these we're heading into the last two mountains, right? The mountain of family. And actually, family, this is something that Keith and I talk about all the time. And so I'm excited to just have you share your wisdom, your experience, your perspective today. And I have to remind you, this is being recorded, so don't say nothing that you don't want to hear being played back.
No inappropriate speech.
Yes, please. But
I got you.
I've shared about Keith in a couple of ways. On day one and day two, you guys heard about the prayer yesterday. You guys met the angel just a while ago, Nicole, and now you get to meet the incredible man that I speak so highly of, the man who's assigned to my purpose, and actually a man who is called to the mountain of family. I'm going to go ahead and say it, Keith. I'm excited about what God is doing to restore the family unit. And before we get started, I want to share, Keith, he's a business owner as well, an entrepreneur as well. His company is called Empower, as you all can see on the screen. And he started an amazing program, which is called The Hill, and it stands for the Harris Institute of Life Learning. And this is one of the many visions that Keith has shared with me,
Hmm.
as we were dating. And so as we were getting married, I knew that I was being joined in union with a powerful legacy, under the Harris name. And as we talked, we started our day talking about legacy, right? And
Hmm.
we've gone through the day talking about community, talking about education, and now talking about the family. And so let's dive in, because there are many things affecting the family unit today. And so we can have a whole summit on that, right? But
Indeed.
I want to first, acknowledge, the systemic things that have destroyed the Black family. Things like prison, right? Welfare, drugs, violence, a lot of things, right? And those are giants on its own, right? And the Lord is fighting those larger battles. But I want to first, again, bring it back to the basics, and let's talk about things that are in our control right now. And let's just focus on taking our power back too. And so as we bring it back to the basics, something that Keith and I talk about a lot is just the basic relationship between Black men and Black women.
Hmm.
What what do you feel is the state of, the relationship between men and women, and like what do you feel has like negatively affected the way that we relate to each other?
Hmm. So you know me, I'm incredibly thoughtful
Yeah,
about these things. And I have on my Uncle Phil shirt today, so
I'm
hopefully
loving it. I'm loving
my,
it.
my, my Uncle Phil sweater. So hopefully along with that comes some wisdom. No,
I
no,
love
you
the intention there.
you kind of gave it away in terms of the family unit, and so as I let me just say this first, as I read your questions, I was preparing for the answers or preparing to answer them. When I went from question to question, it just kept coming back to the Black family. It kept
Mhm.
coming back to the Black family as the foundation, or the family as the foundation,
Mhm.
and that foundation will support the solution. And
Yes.
and so yeah, I just kept coming back to that, like the restoration of the Black family is the solution. But in terms of
Yeah.
how men and women, Black women, men and women relate to each other, yeah, I was very thoughtful about this, as you know I can be.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I think, unfortunately, the false narratives that we um, that are out there have driven a wedge between Black men and women.
Mhm.
Um, and without using inappropriate language, like we know some of these phrases, bees ain't,
Right.
or
These are the
men
things
are
that
F
have divided
boys.
us, right?
What'd
Like
you say?
these are the things that have divided us, right?
For
Like
sure, for sure.
the
Yes,
language.
the and more importantly, again, the narrative that goes along with that.
Right.
So like, F boys,
Mm.
and men are dogs, and
Mhm.
women, ain't ish. That stuff, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
uh,
Keep it real.
and so I think that really kind of sets the atmosphere, unfortunately, for how we relate to each other. Because if we're going into it with those notions, then we're not really expecting a positive outcome. So
Mm.
in addition to those narratives, um, those narratives are also perpetuated in our music. They're
Yep.
perpetuated in our television shows or movies. So we are surrounded by it. In addition to social media and people who have very public platforms,
Mhm.
who use their platforms to influence people. So you
Right.
combine that with um, the fact that people aren't really critical thinkers, independent thinkers, and really
Mhm.
don't have knowledge of self, and you just kind of have a bunch of people following other people who are making these statements, and that's sort of becoming a part of how we relate to each other, how we view each other, the perspectives that we have of each other. So
Yeah.
instead of treating it as like a one-off, bad experience, or an isolated event, um, we take that experience and apply it broadly across our entire relationship experience.
Right.
Um, and and I'm gonna just say this: if you continue to keep having that bad experience, it's not them; it's probably you. Um,
Mm.
and so it's been time for us to take command of our dating experience. Um, and the way you do that, we talk about this all the time, is really understanding who you are,
Yeah.
and what your purpose is. And
Mhm.
that will inform you moving forward. It informs you as to um, who is the best type of partner for you, who is in
Mhm.
alignment with your divine purpose. Uh,
Mhm.
so yeah, that's my long answer for that.
Yes, because we're getting to the root of why there's so many broken families, right?
Hmm.
Why is there so much brokenness individually, right?
Hmm.
Which causes us to relate to each other in a negative way. So if
Hmm.
we can't even get past that, how can we have a strong family unit? You know, Even, we're speaking to married couples, we're speaking to people who are co-parenting, we're speaking to people who are in the pursuit of a significant other, to
Mhm.
start your family unit. And these are the things that we've seen being perpetuated, in our conversations with friends, online, on social media, and
Mhm.
as Keith said, in songs, in movies, everything that's prevalent in our culture, it's reflecting brokenness.
Mhm.
It's reflecting brokenness. And so God's desire is to make us whole again, and that starts with self. That
Mhm.
starts with self because, yesterday we started with the personal shift, and the question was asked, what is your level of self awareness? And if you don't know that, just look around at the state of your relationships. That
Mhm.
is a mirror. That is a mirror. And so, we're addressing brokenness today, and it is what it is. It is what it is because
Mhm.
we can only get to the solutions if we address things at the root, right?
For sure.
And so as we talk about brokenness, right, and we look at, the statistics around family, one of the biggest, alarming statistics that I found is really around divorce, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of divorce, within our community, and as someone who has experienced divorce, we're grateful that, God is a restoring God, right?
Indeed.
Restoration. We have a
Mhm.
beautiful new family together. But you've gone through that experience. And so from your perspective, what do you think is causing such a high divorce rate?
Hmm. Um, yeah. So this kind of goes back to my first answer. And let me say this: forgive me for sort of looking away when I think. I sort of
Oh no, it's
focus
okay.
in
Be
on. Okay,
you.
yeah.
Be
I'm
you. We
just
want we
saying.
want all your profound thoughts. So look around.
Right. So this kind of goes back to the first answer, in that we don't know who we are, right? Um,
Mm,
so
mm,
instinctively, or by nature, we want companionship, right?
yes,
And that is typically the driver to get into a relationship.
right,
So our focus is to fulfill that need, right?
right,
Um, and you don't realize that all the other things, or not the other things, the most important thing is actually being in spiritual alignment with your partner.
mm-hmm,
You don't realize that that is missing, or some of us don't realize that is missing until after we've already made a commitment.
mm,
And
mm,
so Yeah, again, my advice is to dig deep, soul search, really understand who you are, and what your purpose is, and use that to guide you. So yeah,
right.
again, it kind of goes back to my first answer, and this is why I prefaced the conversation with that. It just kept
Yeah,
coming back to
it kept coming
these
back.
key points. Hmm.
Yes, and you know what? God has been doing that all day, like
Hmm.
bringing us back to these central things. So He's reminding us in your answers.
Hmm.
Um, and you make such a very important point that knowing who you are and knowing what your purpose is a prerequisite to marriage.
For sure.
And so many other needs are driving our desire for marriage, right?
Hmm.
And I was one of those people in the beginning. I told you this before that, in my mid to late 20s, I wanted to be married, right? I was finding, someone I could date and be with. And I was clinging to the wrong people because, again, that desire, that need, it can be so overwhelming at times.
Hmm.
Um, but what could happen is that you end up committing to someone prematurely,
Hmm.
that you have not consulted with God about,
Hmm.
right? You haven't
Hmm.
consulted with God, like, is this the person that you have for me? And it took the prayer for me to even ask the right questions or to ask God the right things, which is to
Hmm.
send me the person, send that
Hmm.
person to me,
I
right?
was going to say that you don't even know the questions to ask. You don't even
Right.
know what to really ask for. You just have this
Yes.
burning desire for companionship, and
Yes.
obviously that makes sense. That's the way God designed it. For us to be
Exactly.
to
God
have a
designed us to be
companion.
in partnership, to be in
Indeed.
partnership. And so, but everything, still has to be in divine order, right? And
Hmm.
so I think God has given us the tools to understand, how to form, strong unions so that we can form strong families.
Hmm.
And so I'm glad we're having this conversation because Keith and I we observe a lot of things, and primarily Keith, he's dissecting all the conversations online, all of them, and it's so interesting how we have so many other priorities about the man or woman that we want in our life, and we have not seen purpose. We haven't seen anyone mention purpose. Like
Hmm.
it's like they need to be this tall, they need to make this amount of money,
Hmm.
they need to be this good in bed, like all the things, y'all seen it.
All
Y'all seen
nonsense,
it.
superficial,
Yeah,
basic things. These things are so basic.
yeah,
Like we're thinking on a very low level when it comes to this, and I
right.
would love for us to elevate and to
Yes, yes,
think higher
yes.
about how we're thinking of this.
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
Let's elevate our thinking, y'all, for real.
Hmm.
Um, some other things that God was sharing about the family unit is also the role of a parent. Going back to the parents and our last conversation about education. That big shift was getting the parents involved again. It's like the kids, the students are being dropped off at school and expecting the teachers to do all the work. But that work starts at home, right? And
Hmm.
so let's talk about what is the role of a parent. And for those of you all who may be new, to this platform, Keith and I are new parents.
Hmm.
We have twins, John and Sophia. They'll be one next month. So
Hmm.
we are almost 1 year in, y'all. So we said their birthday is about to be our 1 year anniversary party because
Right.
we made it.
Right.
We're
Right. We
making it
made it. We
through.
made it a year.
Yes. So we're learning so much. So tell us, like, parenting, what is the role of a parent? Let's get back to the basics.
Hmm. Uh, okay, new to this,
Right.
but these are my thoughts. And again, I'm always incredibly thoughtful about things. Maybe sometimes overwhelmingly so.
Yeah.
But um, okay, so this may seem like I'm going on a tangent, but just go with me.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
story time.
We're
Well, it's
here.
not story time, but um, there's a lot being said um, about not behaving as a role dictates, and I get that. I think society is sort of set up constraints based on if you're a man you do this, if you're a woman you do this, and it's largely become a part of how we operate as people. um but and I think there's some flexibility. That's one of the beautiful things about family, is that there is some flexibility within your household unit. Like you and your family, the leaders of your family, me and you, we get to determine
Mm,
the roles, and who fills those roles, right?
mm,
um and I think there's a reason why God created the masculine and the feminine and the masculine,
mm,
um because he's both. He is
mm.
the combination of the two is divine. uh
Yes.
it's a it's a perfectly crafted, symbiotic, entity. And it's in an environment like that, that has that a child becomes a well-adjusted adult. I think
Yeah.
um, we have a family mantra or like kind of catchphrase. Maybe it's not a catchphrase, but like it's like a family mantra,
Yeah.
cultivating greatness.
Yeah.
And that's the short answer to my question. I
Yes.
think our role as parents is to identify the God given gifts, skills, talents, personality, um, uh, proclivities, um, of John and Sophia, and help them cultivate that into
Right.
their purpose. Um,
Right.
yeah, I think that is the summation of everything that I just said for the most part. That our role is to help them cultivate their God-given skills, talents, into a purpose that they can move, a life purpose that they can move forward with. Your kids shouldn't be leaving your house without a purpose. I think that half of the
Come
people
on
we end
now.
up dating,
Come on now.
I'm just saying, half of the people we end up dating, they don't know what is going on in their lives, right?
Mm.
And that's part of the reason why when you get with people, they're not necessarily broken. They don't even understand, how they should be operating. And I think that that's part of the job of the parent is, again, to create well-adjusted adults.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
my kids shouldn't have to suffer the same bumps and bruises that I experienced, right?
Right.
Um, I'm here to give them guidance, and
Yes.
so that's it. That's the role.
Yes. And that's major, babe. It's so major because the home is where purpose is birth. It's where identity is established. And I love how you said that, your children shouldn't leave your home without knowing their purpose, or at least enough to start moving in that direction, right?
For sure.
Because what happens is they turn to the world to validate them. They
Indeed.
turn to the world to understand who they are. They're
Indeed.
seeking their, that when we talk about self-actualization, right?
Hmm.
As we're moving on the path of self-actualization, we're trying to find all of the confirmations needed as we're on the path of becoming who we are. But
Hmm.
what happens is we allow the world to start giving us our identity when that should be coming from God.
For
God
sure.
only. Yes.
Hmm.
And so, as parents, we're here to love, we're here to nurture, but also something we talk about a lot is structure and discipline is necessary too. So
Hmm.
please share about that.
Well, I think in the societal roles, um, the man or the masculine figure has been in charge of the protection, the structure, the discipline of the children,
Mm-hmm.
and again, the societal role for the women or for the feminine is love and nurturing. And that's where I'm saying that there can be some flexibility, because we have to be on the same page in terms of the discipline,
Right.
and it can't be that I'm just the disciplinarian without any love and care and hugs,
Right.
and because they need that from me as well. um,
Exactly.
so yes, I think that those things, that's a role, and I think it's okay to embrace that role. I embrace that role of being the structure for them, and being the discipline
Yes.
for them, or teaching them how to be disciplined. I embrace
Mhm.
that role. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And you're doing an incredible job at it. I
Well,
mean,
thank you,
if I must say, if I
thank you.
must say, because I feel that you're someone who is very sure about how you want to structure the home, how you want keep. I'm sorry, John and Sophia to have structure, right?
Right.
Um,
Hmm.
and it's allowed me to flow in love and nurturing because we have that solid structure in place, right?
Hmm.
And that is the power of a relationship that works well together, right? Because this all
Hmm.
requires communication.
Oh, for sure.
And I think that's also something that is in essence an essential ingredient for the family unit is communication, right?
For sure. For sure.
Between the parents, and if you're co-parenting now, right, that communication still has to be in place, right?
Of course.
Because the most important thing at that time is training up the child in the way that they should go. So that requires staying on the same page. But what I think that the promise in the pandemic is because we were quarantined in our homes, we had to learn how to make our homes our sanctuary again, right?
Hmm.
And when we think about not being able to go to church, not being able to do the normal day-to-day stuff, now we're stuck at home, but now we realize how home is like the incubator, right?
Hmm.
Home is
Hmm.
is the place where, after we finish a long day's work, we need to um be able to relax, be able to have peace, be able to
Hmm.
have whatever cultivates us, right?
Hmm.
Um,
And that's incredibly important to me, right?
absolutely.
Yeah, like I move, or every decision, or everything that I am doing around here. Of course, with by communicating with you and coming to an agreement about what we want, it is to create an environment that we can cultivate greatness,
That we
right?
can
Like
exactly,
let's
exactly.
remove the distractions.
Yes.
Fortunately, like I don't. We're not in a situation that our parents were in, or our grandparents
Hmm.
were in.
Right.
And so we have a little bit more rope given to us to be able to really think about how we can create an environment that is nurturing, that promotes growth.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's incredibly important to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to take this a little step further, as we talk about communication, right? And marriage, right? Marriage requires communication, right? For those of you who are ready to be married, seeking marriage, engaged, know that communication is a skill that needs to be cultivated. Okay.
Hmm.
Consideration is a skill that needs to be cultivated, because I always heard like people say that marriage is hard work, right?
Hmm.
Marriage is hard work. We've all heard that. Um, but when you're aligned with someone in your purpose, I'm telling you, I think it takes out at least 90% of the hard work.
Yeah, I
There's-
I don't think it has to be that hard.
it doesn't.
I
It
don't I
doesn't
don't
have
think
to
it's
be
I,
that
I
hard.
don't think it's that hard. I you know fortunately or unfortunately have an A/B test. So I've had relationships before where it was
Right.
hard, and now the relationship with you, it's not hard. And this
Yeah.
is what I was talking about earlier in terms of like the basic things. And I realize that some people don't understand the basic things before they can elevate. So you have to teach that too, right? But communication is one of the basic things. Respect is one of the basic things. And I think
Yes.
that that's the foundation. that you get with in a family, again, that creates an environment that that supports, the proper balance of, the masculine, the feminine. You know what I mean? Like, I think,
Right.
um, and I'm sorry, you can probably hear kids in the background. Uh,
Right. I already
but
know how it is.
yeah, so yeah, it's been time to elevate, and
Yes.
again, we have to learn those basic things of communication and whatnot. But there's a whole other level of being that is transcendent. It's spiritually transcendent, um,
Mhm.
so much so
Mhm.
that you're not even operating on a basic level anymore. Like, your
Mm-mm.
things are, the things that the flow that you're in is a divine one, and I think that's how, the I think that's the recipe, um, or sort of what we're looking to create and cultivate. We're trying to get to that level.
Yes, we are. Because that was God's intention, right? So we're just going back and to tell you how real it is, about God saying get back to the basics, in my study time, my devotional time, he kept bringing me back to Genesis 1. Genesis
Mm,
1. And he said, I told you everything in the beginning. Everything in the beginning. But what was also in the beginning? The Garden of Eden, right? Which
hmm.
is the theme for our marriage. Back to Eden. Let's get back to Eden.
Right.
And so in Eden, right, there was abundance. You had everything
Hmm.
that you need. It was easy.
Hmm.
There wasn't toil. It wasn't, again, the work that we have taken on, because of our decisions, our sin, like everything that has now fallen on mankind. Now we got to work for everything when God was
Right.
like, I gave
Right.
you everything in the earth.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
now we have to work for it. And I feel that, when it comes to marriage, God wants us to bring him back to the center so that he can make it easy again. So he can show you that Eden model that he designed for us to function so that our family units can rise up strong from that,
Hmm.
right? When you have the roots, when you have those seeds planted, now it makes the rest of the things easier, right? The raising
Hmm.
of the child. We all know that raising children is an incredible responsibility and an incredible task.
Hmm.
And that can take a lot of energy, a lot of sacrifice, right? And many people have paid those dues. As I've become a mother, my heart just, it just goes out to all single parents now, like
Hmm.
because of just how much it has required from us as new parents, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I feel God, filling in all the gaps
Hmm.
so that we can enjoy family again, right?
Hmm.
So much of us have now been accustomed to running from family to well, what you think when you hear the black family, what do you think? Ah, it's gonna be some mess, or
Right.
ah, is
Right.
such and such gonna be there? Like,
Right.
all of these crazy things
Hmm. Who all over there?
who are all over there. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's been a characteristic of our culture. But we tend to laugh at the things that we're uncomfortable about. And that's kind of like the elephant of the room. But
Hmm.
in this new era, where I feel a new strength coming to the Black family, like
Hmm.
I feel us as we are tackling all those things about ourselves, right? Day one was about the inner transformations that needs to happen, the self-awareness that needs to happen as we're doing the work. And now we know how to form the right relationships.
Hmm.
Now we know how to make the right decisions about who we marry, who we're coming into agreement with, who we're
Hmm.
committing to, right? All of these
Mhm.
things is helping to restore the family unit, one step at a time. And so, as a leader of a Black family, right? And I feel that you are a leader of the Black family. And as your purpose, as you step into it more and more, what do you feel that the culture needs to hear about making the family unit strong again?
Hmm. Again, just my answer. Um,
Mm-hmm.
if you're able to receive something from this, great.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we have the answer. We are the solution.
Mm-hmm.
We are the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that we face so many challenges being who we are, of this skin color in this society and in this world. Tons of challenges. And um, I think that to tackle these problems, we must be unified. And I
Yes.
think that that unity begins with the restoration of the Black family um,
Yes.
in each household. I think it begins there. I don't think that we can tackle any of the things until we
Mm-hmm.
have unity in our households, in our relationships with each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and that gives
Mm.
us the platform we need in order to be able to tackle some of these bigger societal challenges, right?
Yes.
Um, I think we're attempting to do is sort of build on an incredibly shaky foundation, right?
Right. Right. Come on now.
And it just doesn't work like that. Um, Sustainable solutions are built on firm foundations.
Mm. Mm. Say that one more time because it's so simple. It's profound.
Mm. Um, Sustainable solutions. What did I say? Sustainable.
Right. It just flowed out.
Sustainable solutions are built on firm foundations.
Yes. And I love that shift that you shared, that before we attempt to go out and tackle anything, let's get our house in order, right?
Hmm.
Let's get our
Hmm.
house in order.
Hmm.
And you know, this is certainly something we need to hear.
Hmm.
Because I think that, again, going back to what Eric was sharing about the mountain of education, is that we're so quick to react. Um, and
Hmm.
we've been reacting for over 400 years, right?
Right.
So when an injustice happens, we're reacting. When, something uh, dismissive happens, we're reacting.
Hmm.
When we feel disrespected, we're reacting.
Hmm.
When, somebody calls out somebody on Black Twitter, we're reacting.
Right.
Like it's been a cycle of reacting, right?
Hmm.
But again, instead of placing blame, let's look at ourselves first. That was the lesson from yesterday. And let's get our own house in order. Let's restore relationships.
Hmm.
Let's restore our families.
Hmm.
Because you made a powerful point that once we're strong, can nobody step to us, can't nobody come against us. All of these
Absolutely.
other systemic things that we're battling, we've been facing them with broken homes.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we cannot, and honestly, I'm having a realization now, babe, that
Mm.
why hasn't any movement been sustained? Why
Right.
hasn't any movement that has come out of the Black community, why has it not been sustained to true change?
Hmm.
Because we've done so in our own brokenness, in our
Hmm.
own broken homes.
Hmm.
Um,
And that's the thing that we can control. right?
Right. Right.
The systems that have conspired against us, whether you believe those things are actual fact or not. You know, the prison industrial complex,
Mhm.
you name it. You know,
Mhm.
war on drugs. You know, like whether you believe that these things have sort of um, made it difficult for us to exist and to thrive and grow in this country, um, you know, to some is debatable. What's not debatable is that you can improve um, from within, beginning right now. Like you can start
Beginning
that
right
process
now.
right now. You
Beginning
have
right
control
now.
of that right now.
Right now. Mm.
Hmm.
And and that's how we start to take our power back.
Hmm.
That's how we start to take it back because, you know, that is a decision that can be done today and dealt with, right? Like,
Hmm.
think about, who do you need to call? Who do you need to reconcile with? Who do you need to forgive? Who do you need to reach out to?
Hmm.
Who needs help? Who do you know that needs help, right?
For sure.
Going
For
back
sure.
to, what Andre was sharing is the village, right? Like
Hmm.
there was a point in time where, there were generations in a household, right?
Hmm.
And
Right.
therefore parents had the help that they needed, right? We
Hmm.
talk about Big Mama. You talk about Big Mama all the time,
For
right?
sure.
She was there. She was
For
there.
sure.
And we all have a Big Mama, right? Like
Hmm.
that was there, and we got that wisdom from
Hmm.
generations.
Hmm.
Miss Deborah has been on here today, and she always talks about generational collaborations, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
we supported one another. And going back to the village, I feel God bringing us back to our roots. Like
Hmm.
when we think about, where our lineage and how we all started in villages or communities of some sort.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because the breakdown in the family, I feel that oftentimes come from a lack of support, right?
For sure.
Like think about people just need the support that
Hmm.
they need. And so I feel that, this is a shift that allows us to fully embrace, the power that we do have because
Hmm.
it's undeniable the power of Black culture, especially in
For
this
sure.
society. And
For
so
sure.
I'm even wondering how much more we can accomplish if the family unit was strong.
Yeah. Imagine what we could do if we weren't broken, right?
If we weren't broken. Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine the stories that we could tell that aren't, that are more than just brokenness. You know, the majority
Right.
of the stories that are told about us is
Yes.
about something broken.
Yes.
And
Yes.
imagine the, the just taking the limits off of that and being able to tell
Right.
so many different types of stories. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
um, so yes, yes,
Mhm.
yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I love what you have started with the Hill in terms of impacting the community. I want to give you a moment to share, a bit about that vision because as you hear, the Hill is the legacy is family. It's the Harris, Institute of Life Learning. And
Hmm.
if John or Sophia, feels called to carry it forth, they have something,
Hmm.
uh, as part of their legacy to go forth.
Hmm.
Sophia may be running My Ivana one day, who
Sure.
knows?
Sure.
But the biggest thing is they have options, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that that's something that comes out of the family unit. Jewel emphasized that today as well. Is
Hmm.
is passing down assets, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
We focus so much on the generational curses. Let's talk about the generational blessings that we're
For
now
sure.
passing down,
For sure.
and the ability to now, as we're shifting to ownership, right? That's
Hmm.
something that our culture has picked up wholeheartedly. We know the importance of ownership now, right?
Mhm.
So, what are we building together? When you have a strong family unit, you're able to build together, you're able to do so many incredible things.
Mhm.
So, I would love for you to share just a little bit about the Hill and your
Sure.
vision for community. Yes.
Sure. Well, the Empower is a community improvement business.
Mm-hmm.
And so long before I had any children, it was important to me. You know what? Never mind that. Forgive me. Empower is a community improvement business, and essentially its goal is to improve communities by developing businesses, programs, and education, community service. And the Hill, the Harris Institute of Life Learning,
Come on
long before I had kids,
now.
was my sort of outlet to help somebody just get to the next stage, help somebody get to the next level.
Yeah.
And so it's a program. We have clients that which we call life learners, and they are assigned a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
and that mentor is to help them achieve their goals. It's really that simple.
Mm-hmm.
And so yes, again, long before I was sharing all of this wisdom and knowledge to my own babies. I've been helping people sort of achieve their goals, and understand what their purpose is, and so that they can move to the next stages of their life, informed by that.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Hmm.
love it. I am so happy to be a part of it as your wife. I'm helping to build, behind the scenes. And
Hmm.
I want everyone to think about, what will your family produce, right? Keith and I came together as entrepreneurs. That was something that gave us a common ground, when we first met, and we were able to relate to each other in that way, and support each other in that way. And so, therefore, the things that we're building are businesses, right? But what will your family build? What will your family create, right? There's a powerful thing, when God said, to be fruitful and multiply, right?
Hmm.
Yes, He meant to multiply and have children, right? But think about your gifts being fruitful together and
Hmm.
how that can multiply, right?
Hmm.
Because again, that's another way that we take our power back, because
Hmm.
we're not constrained or conformed, to uh, go get a job to put food on the table, and because that's where a lot of arguments, a lot of division comes from finances, and we all know all of those things,
Hmm.
that affect. But what if you were happy about what you were doing every day?
Hmm.
How would that affect your spouse? How would that affect your
Hmm.
kids?
Hmm.
What if your kids got to observe you flowing in your gifts, right?
Mhm,
How would
mhm,
that free up or help them to discover their gifts, right?
mhm, mhm,
Um, I see that with Sophia now, right? So, Keith is actually a musician as well. He's gifted in music, and I saw your post recently, babe. So, what did you say? You're a downgraded musician to a music
I'm a
appre-
music appreciator now.
music
I don't play
appreciator.
music anymore. Yeah.
Anyways, Keith is gifted in music. Okay, very very gifted. It's also very mind blowing, to me. Just how he can see things in music, how things are arranged, right? And so he has been able to see that in Sophia. And
Mhm,
so, now we see Sophia's, she's not just looking at the TV, looking at, Sesame Street. She's not just looking at, videos that we play. Keith could tell that she's actually studying it. Like
mhm,
she's studying it and
mhm,
she's swaying, but she's
mhm,
on beat. She's on
mhm,
beat.
mhm.
And
She's
then
singing.
she's starting to sing. She's
Hmm.
starting to sing, and thank God she has Keith because I can't hit a note worth of nothing. Like it'll take me all my effort to try to hit a note, but
You're a
Keith can
wonderful
hit
singer.
those. Well, we're gonna go past that. Keith knows how to hit those notes. So as Sophia is singing, she like Keith can actually start training her voice as an infant,
Hmm.
right? As an infant.
Yeah, again, that goes back to the cultivating, their gifts. And so I think it's again up to the parents to identify the gift and then cultivate it.
Yes.
So yeah, that goes back
Yes.
to that. Oh,
Identify
and I
the
wanted to
gifts.
touch on, you were talking about Eden, and how that's
Yes.
sort of the theme for our family. Yeah, that the assignment after he created man and woman was to go build.
To go build.
And so it
Yes.
wasn't just, multiplying and by having children. It was, yes, it was building family. It was building foundations. It was
Yes.
building businesses. It was building. The commandment is to build. Um,
Yes.
and uh, can you build by yourself? Sure. But it's great to have a partner.
Right?
It's great to have somebody to share the load. It's great to have somebody to bounce ideas off of. Um,
Yes.
and we're entrepreneurs. I wanted to comment on the entrepreneur thing that you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier. We're entrepreneurs, and that connects us, or gives us a point of connection for sure. But ultimately, what it is that we are aligned in our purposes.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that my purpose is Candace's purpose or Candace's purpose is mine. Is that we are heading in the same direction, and
Yes.
that um, makes us aligned, which again just makes everything so much easier. Imagine not being in
Right.
alignment, or being in disalignment with someone, and they're kind of going this way and you're headed that way. Like
Right.
um, you're you're
Right.
uh, you're bound to disconnect, at some point, because you aren't headed in the same direction. So that's incredibly
Yes.
important.
Yes. That's so insightful, babe, because going back to, things that cause divorce, is are you guys moving in the same direction?
Hmm.
Because that could be another thing too. Like, it doesn't have to be any beef, anything bad. Like, you may even be compatible, but are you moving in the right direction?
Hmm. Hmm.
Wow. Wow. That's wisdom right there. That's very,
It's
very
the
important.
sweater.
It's the Uncle Bill sweater. I can't. I can't. Well, thank you. Thank you for imparting that to us because these are the questions that you should ask, right? And this is something we need to do for FLB, Faith, Love, and Business. We've talked about doing this checklist before. We need to do it because, again, these are the things that you should ask, as you are dating, as you are deciding to become married.
Hmm.
Is are we moving the same direction? Are our gifts in sync with each other? Are we in alignment with our purpose?
Hmm.
Do we
Yes,
like the same
those.
things?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Those are the questions.
Those are the
It's
questions,
not
right?
how tall is he. It's not, if she's incredibly good looking, or whatever the case.
Right.
People have preferences, and those are fine, but those are basic things.
Yeah.
Again, what I was talking about earlier, like those are communicate. He or she should have a job. Like those are basics. Right? And we're thinking
Right.
on a
Who's
very
gonna pay the
basic and
rent?
operating
Who's
on a
gonna pay
very
the rent?
basic
Like,
level. And as a result, we never get to elevate because we're sort of stuck in this basic level of operating. And so
yes,
yeah, you shouldn't even associate with somebody who doesn't have those basic skills,
the
or come
basics.
to the
Yeah.
table with those basic skills. It shouldn't be something that you're requesting from someone. If you find that
Right.
they don't have those skills, then move on, move to the
Exactly. Move
next.
on. Yeah.
So,
And these
mhm,
are all the things that help you identify if you're equally yoked with somebody, right?
mhm,
And so these are the right questions. And, don't settle. Don't feel like you need to compromise, because you may regret that in the future if you compromise in the area, especially if it's really important to you.
mhm,
Keith and I had to have a real conversation recently about, what are your top, five things that are priority for how you live, for your
mhm,
environment. Like,
mhm,
I need to make sure that I'm supporting those things, right?
mhm,
And
mhm,
and vice versa.
mhm,
Because as you live together, right, that's a whole other story. Because as you live together, you have to live in unity, in harmony, in peace, right?
mhm,
So, how can you do that without knowing what your partner needs,
mhm,
right? And so, these are all the necessary conversations, but this
mhm,
is what establishes longevity. And let me make this caveat. We talk about the ideal time to get married a lot too. And
mhm,
this goes back to self-actualization. And so what we've discovered is that, you really you really should try not to get married until you have self-actualized. That's what we have found helps you become at your peak time of wholeness, completion, one with yourself, knowing with yourself, walking in your purpose. And what I feel like that's probably the early 30s, right? And so I had no idea trying to be married in my 20s, first of all.
right, right.
Knowing what I know now, I will be like, nah, no 20s. If you're in your 20s watching this, don't even think about trying to be with anybody right now.
Yeah, and you can put an age on it.
Yeah,
I
there's no
don't want to
age.
put an
It's
age
just,
on it because I don't think it's
yeah,
contingent upon age. It kind of goes back to what I was saying. Your children shouldn't leave the house without a purpose. I think that um, getting to self actualization can happen as quickly as you want it to, with the self work, and then under the guidance of someone who knows sort of how to walk the path. So I think reaching self actualization, and being like at the fullest knowledge of self, is the point where I think that you can add someone, to your life,
yeah,
your partner, that will, again, be in divine alignment, and share a similar purpose and path, or that you're operating or going in the same direction. So
right.
but yes, I mean, I think I jokingly said that men really shouldn't be, um, they really shouldn't be married before 35, and women before 30. But it really is at the point where you, like, reach proper self actualization.
Yeah, and I would have to relate. I think that meeting you was at the right time. It was at the perfect time. And I was 30. I was
Mm,
30. But I had to go through my journey of my purpose in entrepreneurship, because the other thing is, in those early years, and Gail talked about this, like in the early years, it's sometimes it just needs to be you and God, right?
mhm,
So when you're busy trying to incorporate somebody else, like
mhm,
you're distracting yourself from the perfect work that God is trying to do in you. Like,
mhm,
not you trying to fit somebody in your life right away,
mhm. Or fit
um,
into someone's life.
or fit into someone's life, right?
Mhm.
Because you never know how that's taking you away from your purpose.
Absolutely.
And so, like, in the pursuit of purpose, that time with God is necessary. And then sacrifice is necessary too, right? And so sometimes that means going without for a minute. And
Hmm.
so if you're committing to a household
Right.
that needs money to function,
For sure.
your spouse gonna be looking at you crazy like
Yeah.
when is the money coming in?
Right. Like, hey, I love that you're chasing your dreams, but we trying to eat around here, sir.
We're trying to eat. And that's a literal need. Going back to the basic needs, right? We got to eat,
Right.
right?
Mm, mm,
Um, and so when you have to sacrifice in the pursuit of your dreams, like, yes, you should do that, but you shouldn't have any other dependents. Like, don't have
mhm,
anyone dependent on you. And because you may be comfortable eating, ramen noodles,
mhm.
or, what Keith likes to joke about, the 4 for $4 menu from Wendy's, which
Right.
I was rocking with for a minute.
Right. Right.
But when you're cultivating family now, look, um, like, I love you, but we gotta keep the lights on. And
Mhm,
so when you go into family and marriage, you now have other responsibilities that are very real.
mhm,
Another responsibility is time, right? And
mhm,
so that's
mhm,
one of my biggest learnings is, I have been so used to, grinding on my business, my Ivana, like in my own world, working all day and night. And so now that I have a spouse and children, they require my time too. And quality time is a love language, right? And so, you want to show love to the people that you love and care about, right? And
mhm,
so therefore some of your time has to now be dedicated to them. And
mhm,
so all these things have to be taken into consideration.
mhm.
And
And really, it's the balance, and that's where we're, I think, ultimately trying to achieve. Because you just can't go business, go, chasing your dreams. Like there has to be some balance, um,
yes,
and I think in order to be, a well functioning, well adjusted person, I think the balance is necessary, because otherwise you're just kind of pulling your hair out, trying to achieve these goals, and then and people are being sacrificed,
hmm,
and that's just not okay. That's why, like you said, when you are grinding or when you are, um, let me not use the word grinding. I think
right.
that
We're
comes
getting out
along
of
with
grind culture, right?
right, right, because it comes along with this connotation that I think is just unhealthy. Um, and so I don't want to use that. When you're doing the self work, like when you're
Yeah,
digging deep, and you're trying to understand who you are, what your purpose is, and how to fulfill that purpose, and everything that comes along with that. Like you need to make income, you need to, there needs to be some results, some money coming in so that you can, live life properly. Um, but it's really like the self work that's happening within. I think the better you can achieve better results quicker, without the distractions, without the
right,
obligation, of a committed relationship. And honestly, most of these relationships, or at least this is for me, I'm speaking from me, most of the relationships I had, previous to this one were, time wasters,
mm,
and so the quicker you can sort of identify that, the better, so that you can have all of your spirit energy and your mental energy on understanding what your purpose is, so that you can fulfill that divine purpose.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow, the wisdom. The wisdom. Thanks for bringing thanks for bringing the wisdom today, babe.
Indeed,
Um,
indeed.
and, and, and let me add, be with someone that you enjoy being around as well, that you have fun with,
Oh
Keith and
yeah.
I think we have fun, right?
Oh, for
We
sure.
have a fun time
For
together.
sure. For sure.
And
Again,
so
there's an ease
there's an
to
ease to
this
it. Yeah.
relationship
Yeah.
and a level of comfort that I think that this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yes, you're gonna deal with challenges. You know, you're gonna. We have two babies who are 11 and a half months old, and they caring for them can be a challenge.
Yeah.
You probably hear one of them screaming right now, but it can be a challenge, but there's still an ease. And the wonderful thing about family is you get to determine the culture. You get to determine
Yes. Yes.
how things operate. For the sake of for the sake of your own for the things that you need. One of the things I need is a level of peace.
Yeah.
And babies just disrupt that sometimes.
Right.
But but
We've been
ultimately,
adjusting.
or at the end of the day, like we really have a wonderful, peaceful, easygoing household, and it completely suits my lifestyle. Or
Yes.
the way that I want to live. And I assume that because you're shaking your head that you agree with that.
No, wholeheartedly. Yes,
Yeah.
wholeheartedly. Um, yes. So this has been so great just talking about family, making family strong again. Thank you for all the comments that y'all are sharing. Something I see that Yui shared was if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Hmm.
And we're trying to go far. Like, we're trying to bring back, you know, the strength in our culture, transform the culture through strong families, and just being in an environment that cultivates our greatness. That's our family motto. You guys are welcome to adopt that. And it was just such